Coming up next on Headline Humboldt, we sit down with private therapist Shin Luong to talk about the bottleneck in local mental health services and how even those caregivers who want to accept insurance face daunting challenges in making that happen. Also, our own Ryan Hutson profiles a St. Jude fundraiser that is apparently designed to scare your socks off while also raising some money for kids needing cancer treatments. Coming up now on Headline Humboldt. From the top of Humboldt Hill, this is Headline Humboldt. I'm James Falk. Thanks for joining us. For those of you who have followed my work over the last 20 years, it's no secret that my own father suffered from a severe mental illness, one that made life extremely difficult for him and for us, his family. He was a schizophrenic back when most available treatments consisted of mind-numbing drugs that kept him sedated and on the couch rather than wrestling with his multiple and recurrent delusions. Haldol and Thorazine were two such staples, neither of which do anything to treat the cause of the disease. Rather, they simply make it so the patient is nearly catatonic and therefore no longer a threat to those around them. While treatment options have multiplied in both quantity and quality over the decades, such a diagnosis is still a difficult road, fraught with many challenges and hard choices. As a result, the rest of us have the burden of trying to make the mental health care system as easy as possible for folks facing these kinds of challenges. Everything from schizophrenia and bipolar disorder to recurring depression and acute anxiety. The last thing people need is for a dysfunctional and overburdened system to exacerbate their problems and make treatment even more difficult than it has to be. As a child, we moved several times to different towns up and down the state of California, always searching for the best facilities and doctors available to make my father's life, and consequently ours, somehow better. It rarely worked, and he died at the age of 49 after almost 30 years of hard going. But even now, in 2022, our local mental health care system leaves much to be desired, often making treatment for even minor issues out of reach for those who have little money, even if they have health insurance. Our guest tonight, Shin Luong, is a private therapist who is here to share with us challenges some local providers face and even qualifying to accept health insurance. Because of this difficulty, many local mental health care providers take only private pay, putting them out of reach for many of those who need the treatment most. But first, we're going to hear from a local resident whose experience in getting health care exemplifies this problem. The following interview will be featured in an upcoming KEET TV documentary, Seeing the Signs, Suicide Prevention in Humboldt County.
I knew that she needed help. I believed her when she told me. So we attempted to get her help. The reasons just piled on one on top of another. I actually walked into the place where I worked, but for a different program, and asked, and they said, yes, but we only take Medi-Cal. And I said, that's fantastic, I have Medi-Cal. And she also has this and this, and we can't take her unless she only has Medi-Cal. So it was just, either people didn't take the 3 types of insurance that she did have, they weren't accepting new clients, didn't want to work with children, or she was overinsured. I just could not find help for her.
Thank you, Shin, for coming down to the station today to talk to us about this. You actually reached out to us when you found out that we were making this documentary. We're working with reporter Linda Stansberry on that, and you read an article of hers talking about a related issue. But anyway, you pointed out in your email that it's ridiculously difficult for a therapist to get qualified to even just accept insurance. And from each individual insurance provider, not just in general, but you have to qualify individually for each individual company. Can you talk a little bit about the issue and why you thought to bring it to us here at KEET?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. So I thought about bringing this up because not only was it difficult for me to go through the process, but I was hearing other therapists who were at the same time going through the process, and folks were just trying to live their lives, but also at the same time trying to provide quality care to folks that need mental health services. And I saw that while this is a major bottleneck going on, that I think we can avoid it, but I don't know how at this time. I mean, there's possible solutions out there, but at this time we're not looking at them, we're not doing it. And every insurance that we as therapists may want to be credentialed with is a painful process in itself with just each one. There's no clearinghouse that just says, great, you're all set for all 10 of these insurances that are mostly accepted in Humboldt County. Really, it's 3 insurances that we have here locally that we really look at, and partnership being the major one, but the other 2 would be Anthem and then Blue Shield, and those 2 are really difficult to get credentialed with as well.
So can you give me a sense of the time frame? I mean, like once you got your license to practice, or however you refer to it, and then you try to say, I want to qualify to take Medi-Cal or Blue Cross Blue Shield, what's it look like? What's the amount of, what do you have to do in order to get there?
So most of it is online. You'll see that when you Google it, just to say, hey, I want to get an idea, it'll usually say 90 to 120 days. But when you get into the process, it ends up being more than that. You do the
90 to 120 days.
And they say that's when you are credentialed. That's what Google likes to say, or that's what when you look it up, that's what it says.
Yeah.
But you find out it's 120, up to 90 to 120 business days. That's very different than calendar days.
Absolutely it is. Yes.
Then you find out, oh wait, it's actually 90 to 120 days after the pre-credentialing portion. So you fill it out online and you say, okay, I think I want to start with Partnership, who subcontracts out to Beacon Health Options. So let's start with that, because that's a pretty big player here in Humboldt County.
And Beacon is what a lot of people with Medi-Cal have, right?
Correct, yeah.
So go ahead.
And so from there, you do a pre-credentialing, whether it be through the contractor, the one contractor here in Humboldt County, or you go ahead and you do it online. And so then you sit in what's called pre-credentialing. And you don't really know what's going to happen there. You could call in and say, hey, where's my application? And they say, oh, you're day 89. And all the people that work at Beacon, the customer service portion of it, they don't really understand whether it's calendar days or business days. And so you're sitting there, you're not quite sure.
Don't even know.
They don't even know. And so you're sitting there going, okay, what's happening? I'm at day 89, right? Now we're breaching the 90-day situation, and you then come to find, wait, I'm sitting in pre-credentialing, which means my clock at the 90 to 120 days hasn't even started yet.
Wow.
It's when you're in the credentialing phase, does that clock even start? I did not know that. A lot of people didn't know that. Other people I've spoken to had not known that. And it depends on who you get on the phone. So some people know it, that the customer service level. Some people have no idea what you're even talking about.
And so as you're going through this process, you've got patients who want to see you, right? Because you were working for someone and then you weren't. So the patients who wanted to follow you to your next place had nowhere to, is that right? Or maybe
Correct.
you worked out some arrangement, but still, it's leaving a lot of people in the lurch.
Correct, yes. That's exactly what happened. I was at a group practice, and most of my clients decided, yes, I want to, go with you. And I said, okay, well, here's the situation. And the situation was unfolding as I was, leaving my previous employment. And then so we got to the point where I then started taking people or seeing people pro bono when they were, in like acute depression or acute anxiety, so things that were coming out that were a little critical.
Yeah.
And so I would see them, and they would, a lot of them were actually concerned for me. As much as I didn't tell them the process, they would know, right? Hey, you're going from this place to this place. So are you now credentialed with Medi-Cal yet? And I'm like, I'm not. So then they would become worried for me and say, well, you're not getting paid. I'm like, it's okay, I got this, right? I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't feel like it was okay. And so now I'm saying, okay, now you're having a little bit of anxiety because of my situation, which we're here to talk about.
Yeah.
Anxiety, trying to process your anxiety.
It's like we
now,
mentioned before, it's kind of a circular going down the drain
right,
kind of
right.
thing,
I'm like, oh, this isn't working anymore, and even up until now, because I'm fully now credentialed with Beacon, and I've sorted out all the payment situation as of just 2 weeks ago. So I applied January 28th. I didn't get fully credentialed until July 29th, but I didn't start getting paid until a week and a half ago, I think it was, and not to,
Wow.
so I hadn't been paid for a really long time, and like I said, clients were really concerned.
10 months.
Yeah, clients were really, well, I had a job at the time, and then when I left my
but I mean,
position.
just the fact that it's 10 months from when you start the process to you get a check.
Yeah,
In an area where we have such a crunch for people who can, especially with Beacon. I mean,
Right.
wow.
And like I said, I'm not the only one. And this
Yeah.
is when I saw, this is a problem. You know, I'm going over here talking to a colleague, and she and I were in the process together. And so it was really odd. So she had turned in her application in February, but got fully credentialed in June, and then got her first check in like August.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wait, what's the difference here? Like, my application had been sitting there for a really long
Yeah.
time. I've heard of other situations where people applied, say, January of 2022, and their credentialing process got sped up because they were in a group practice. But then Beacon might have like messed something up in terms of, oh, this is not the correct group that when we entered this stuff in, it wasn't correct. And all of a sudden, this person now is somehow responsible for that error. And then they were like, oh, you have to restart the entire process again.
Wow.
And they're like, wait, what? You know,
So how interactive is this? I mean, are you being tested on stuff? I mean, when people hear credentialing, they assume that you've got a curriculum of things that you have to learn that's important so that you can effectively serve customers of their insurance program. Is that what we're looking at? Or is it basically them just recognizing that you have the proper degree? And I mean, it seems like it would be simple, right?
I would imagine it would be simple. So they usually, a lot of the health insurance, when they credential folks, whether it be any kind of medical professional, they use something called CAQH, which stands for the Council for Quality Healthcare, or affordable, sorry, CAQH. So Coalition for Affordable Quality Healthcare.
Okay.
They're a repository where you essentially, as a medical provider, the easiest way to explain this is you dump all of your information there to say, I went to this school, I worked at this job, this is my current phone number, this is my fax number. This is where you put all your information, and then Beacon, Anthem, Blue Shield, whoever it may be that is you're trying to get credentialed through, they then go to this repository and they look you up, and they're like, oh, okay, they have all their things in place, right? Whatever it is that we may need, depending on our whatever profession I'm in. And so from there, they have all this information sitting in front of them. So I'm not quite sure what the process is after that when they look at that. Do they actually go and call? I graduated from Humboldt State, so did they pick up the phone and call Humboldt State? Or were they like, oh, because CAQH said that,
Give it a check. She should be okay.
Correct, yeah.
But you're not actively involved in this process. You file it and you walk away and you wait for them to say, and it's still taking 10 months, which to me is shocking. What is the impact of that on the ground? We talked a little bit about, and as she mentioned in the video, there's a crunch for people needing therapy in Humboldt County, and it's not. There is you had mentioned that there is probably too low a number for the number of therapists for the population in Humboldt County also. But there's really a complication in that you can go to a therapist and they may not take your kind of insurance, or you may be on Medi-Cal, which means Beacon, but then all the Beacon slots in a given practice are totally full because so many people are on that program. And so how does that translate into its impact on the patients?
So a lot of times I'll get calls from people who are like, oh, I saw you on the North Coast Association of Mental Health Professionals. And they were like, I think you're the only one with availability, which it doesn't say I have availability. It just says my appointments are 4 months or a month out, which I don't even know if that's true or not. I just put it there just so I can screen people to see if we're a good fit. So what I've been hearing are clients calling in, looking for a therapist, and they'll say, I've been looking for a therapist for 4 months. I was given a list by my provider, my medical provider, who said, try these people, and they've tried the people, and they don't get callbacks a lot of the times, and I understand why, because therapists are just so jam-packed in private practice as well. I tend to try to call people back. If I don't call people back, I text people back at least. I try to also give people information of where to go next, and it wouldn't be a deep, dark abyss that I'm referring them to, that I'm just hoping that this person may have availability, and if they don't, you can come back to me and I'm going to try to help you find a therapist. So a lot of people are saying, I've been looking for 6 months, I've been looking for 3 months, nobody takes Anthem here, nobody takes Blue Shield, do you take Blue Shield, right? Medicare, there's very few people taking Medicare here as well, so I take Medicare because I see folks from the aging population.
Which you say was actually an easier process than a lot of these others.
Yes, Medicare
which
was...
Which is ironic, according to the complaints you hear.
Yeah, it was a very easy process. I applied for credentialing in April, early April, and got credentialed within 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that was kind of how I was, I was able to survive,
Yeah.
was on the Medi-Cal
I
care
interrupted
side.
you though. Were you going to?
Oh, no.
No, okay. And so the other thing I wonder is if what can we do? I mean, we talked a little bit about in the interview that maybe there should be a clearinghouse or something, a state organization that sets up the qualifications needed to get certified, and once you're certified for one, that extends to all. Do you think that could work? I mean, what do you think might be a good solution for this?
I think that would actually be the best solution. So that was brought up by a client of mine who she has been dealing with Medi-Cal for quite a while now in terms of whether it be medical care or behavioral health. And so she brought up a really good idea about having, something like a clearinghouse within just the state of California to credential folks from California to say, okay, here we are, whether we're private or we're public, insurance that we're looking at, that this clearinghouse has checked all the boxes and they're good to go. And whether it be Blue Shield that says, oh, great, okay, they were, given the okay by this clearinghouse in the state of California, they're good. We don't have to go through this credentialing process within our own insurance company at this time.
It seems like the insurance companies would be amenable to that because it would save them all the time and labor. I mean, who knows what the insurance companies would be going for, but it would save them the time and labor of having to go through and research each individual applicant for credentialing, right?
Right, I would hope so. And it's really bizarre. The credentialing process is really interesting because when you call them, they treat you like a second-class citizen.
Yeah.
We're doing you a favor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you sure? I think I'm just doing people a favor,
exactly right.
by saying that I'm a healthcare provider and I would like to provide this service to my local community because we absolutely need it.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard when you're like, no, you're not. I'm not here to serve you. We're here to serve our community.
Yeah.
That's not your community. This is my community.
Absolutely.
So this is really hard when I come in here. I'm not saying that I need to get paid. Well, absolutely, we all do. But my main concern, primary concern, is that we have people in this community who need mental health services, behavioral health services, who are not getting those services, and that comes first. That's priority. Everything else really should come second. And so don't treat me as if I'm, some other person that is just like, oh, you want to be credentialed too? Well, good luck. Get in this line.
Well, and it seems like that ideally they would be treating you with respect and sort of inviting you in because they better serve their clients the more people that they have credentialed, right? I mean, like if they don't have someone credentialed in the area, then they're not serving their clients, which means people may not want their insurance. Right. You'd think.
Correct. Yes.
But a lot of times, I mean, like you mentioned before, that you're dealing with kind of a black box. Like this isn't, Joe so-and-so who's handling the credentialing process. It's just a bureaucratic stack of, phone numbers, often on the East Coast, and they're hard to. You can't really get into the box at all, right?
Right, and sometimes you're not even calling the right box. They're like, oh, you didn't know that in Humboldt County we use not Beacon Health options, but we use Beacon Health strategies. I'm like, oh, what? Okay, so what's the number? This is the number, and then you call, and they're like, oh yeah, you've called the right number, but we're also Beacon Health options. I'm like, this is really confusing.
Yeah.
And I say this a lot to them. I'm like, this is really difficult. I don't understand how members with partnership are getting any care when I have a master's degree and I'm trying to go through this credentialing process and I feel like I just don't really know anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you really fooling me into thinking that I'm just completely ignorant and I have no idea what I'm doing? Because I feel that way.
Which is, I mean, it's startling hearing that coming from a mental health care professional. It's like you take on this, they project out that people who they're dealing with are obviously struggling and it just kind of manifests itself. And that's unfortunate. It's also, it seems to me that, I mean, none of these people are integral to the process of making people feel better.
No.
It's all like, it's like there's a method here to make money and it allows insurance companies to serve people, but it does nothing additional for the service or for the patient to have all of this. So it's basically just a vacuum to suck up people's time and energy and money.
Right. And it does suck up a lot of time and energy. Like I think I mentioned in the email, I found myself having to seek out behavioral health services because I was going through this process and having such acute anxiety from it, and so much kind of a little bit of depression of like how sad it is for us, this community, whoever that may have, whatever insurance it is. And, I have to pay for private insurance because I'm a therapist. Would I ever use my benefits for mental health care? I wouldn't, because it doesn't pay a therapist the amount of money that they truly deserve with private pay. It's pretty wild. I wouldn't do that to somebody. So I've seeked out alternative care. I've gone online to see if that would help. I've been able to find my own therapies at this time that works for myself, that doesn't require a mental health professional, which that's great for myself, but what about all these other folks that might need some guidance or, someone to talk to?
Yeah. Now you mentioned state legislators basically to just try and broach this problem. It seems to me that you have a situation where an entire region's healthcare system depends on the speed and efficacy of a bureaucracy that operates with no government or public supervision whatsoever. And what kind of luck have you had reaching out to legislators?
So I've only reached out to the local assembly person because I've always gotten a lot of response. This time, the person who answered was like, wow, I don't know. That's a very specific question, which I understood. I was like, I don't know if you have a way you want to point me. I don't expect answers from you, but just something that I know, okay, where can I go to next? And then from there, maybe I can make the next phone call. When I called partnership, down in Cypress, because for some odd reason, that's where the phone number goes to, Cypress, California, in Southern California. And so I called them and they said, sounds like you need to file a grievance. I was like, against who? And they're like, against partnership. So this is the partnership person, the customer service person, telling me on the grievance line to file a grievance against partnership because of lack of oversight that they have on Beacon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, let's file that grievance then.
Yeah.
I also tried to file a grievance with Beacon Healthcare Services, and they were like, we don't have a formal process. I was like, what do you mean? And what do you want me to do? And so they said, send an email. So I sent an email, but I never heard back.
Of course you didn't. I mean, how many emails do they get? Angry people dealing with health insurance? I mean.
Right.
Wow, I really appreciate we're about out of time. We got 30 seconds left. Is there anything else you'd like to add, or?
No, but I appreciate you guys giving me the time.
No, and I think that this is a huge problem, and I thank you for your work. I mean, It sounds like you're a dedicated professional, and I know that we need lots of those in our community. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after this short break.
On one day, in one cave, music and spirits unite to honor our ancestors. Dia de los Muertos. Featuring Flor de Toloache, Osomatli, and Los Lobos. Join the celebration, Dia de los Muertos.
Tonight at 9 on KEET HD.
Wednesday night on PBS, starting with a new episode of Nature. Think you know the woodpecker? Think again. Followed by a new episode of Nova.
Thousands of lines, some more than 5 miles long, etched in the ground.
And a new episode of Secrets of the Dead.
They were used for well over 3,000 years.
All new episodes of Nature, Nova, and Secrets of the Dead.
Wednesday evening at 8 on KEET HD.
KEET contributor Ryan Hutson brings us a story now on a haunted local attraction that will raise money for St. Jude's Hospital, the well-known childhood cancer treatment center. Located on Edgewood Road in Eureka, the haunting at Deadwood Manor puts the E back in Halloween.
A spooky nationwide fundraiser is raising money for kids with cancer on behalf of St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital with the help of Halloween enthusiasts, and Humboldt County is contributing with the help of one local haunt. A program called Skeletons for St. Jude has raised over $100,000, already exceeding their goal for 2022, the third year running. With an outdoor haunted maze attached to a cleverly engineered Halloween cemetery, Eureka's Deadwood Manor offers a haunted gallery of selfless skeletons raising money to fight childhood cancer with St. Jude's help, which turned this local haunt into a hair-raising fundraiser. Deadwood Manor comes complete with ghostly accounts of historical fiction based on a Roaring Twenties era Wild West time in Humboldt County. Boasting animatronics and motion sensor triggered jump scares, this outdoor walk-through haunt will not disappoint. Emphasizing that all donations go directly to helping kids at St. Jude, the Crypt Keepers at Deadwood Manor told me that their Halloween hobby turned haunted adventure is a project of passion, and that promoting the work done by St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital was, well, a no-brainer. Many of the tombstones you will see at Deadwood Manor in Eureka are carefully handmade. One of this year's main attractions is a new tombstone inspired by Spain's Kiss of Death statue. Using a vintage wedding dress, a repurposed skeleton, not of human origin, and some very serious art materials, this impressively large and creepy statue greets visitors at the edge of Deadwood's driveway on Edgewood Road in Eureka, just off of Myrtle Avenue. This weekend, visitors are welcome to drive by and enjoy this spooky scene, while on Halloween Day, the haunted yard will be ready for those who dare to trick-or-treat at Deadwood Manor. To donate to Skeletons for St. Jude, you can scan the QR code or text the word Halloween to 785-833. Wishing everybody a safe and spooky Halloween. For Headline Humboldt, this is Ryan Hutson.
Keeping the spooky theme intact, this Sunday from noon to 4, join KEET TV and other local organizations at Sequoia Park's Zoo, Boo at the Zoo. Boo at the Zoo will feature a trick-or-treat trail for guests, sponsored by local businesses, as well as a spooky science lab, animal pumpkin stomp and chomp, that sounds like my kind of event, among other attractions. Costumes are encouraged. The event is considered a normal admission day, so to attend, just visit the ticket booth ahead of time and purchase a regular ticket. Those with annual passes can, of course, just use those, and there's no extra charge. Sequoia Park Zoo is located at 3414 W Street in Eureka. For more information, visit the zoo's website. That's it for tonight. Before we go, I wanted to announce a little bit of a news brief we got just before the show started. The U.S. Department of Transportation Maritime Administration awarded $8 million in funds to 2 projects off the North Coast, California, one of which is $650,000 for the city of Eureka's Fisherman's Terminal Dock. So that's much needed money and a happy Halloween gift, apparently. Stay tuned, stay informed.